trust me, in a world of endless choices, a strong brand personality can be your secret weapon to stand out.
You're listening to Marketed by AHBC Group.
Hello, dreamers. Welcome to Marketed, Build Your Dream Brand, the podcast that inspires and guides authentic entrepreneurs to build the soulful brand of their dreams and lead a purpose-driven business. I'm Anne-Héloïse, the host of this podcast and the founder and brand builder-in-chief at AHBC Group, a branding agency based in Miami, Florida, and the founder of the Dream Brand Club, a community of go-getters looking to build the brand of their dreams. Today, we are diving deep into the world of branding. But wait, what was this title? Logos don't matter, like what? Are you not a branding expert? So this is just me making a statement to let you know that if you thought that branding was just a logo, you thought wrong. Today, we're unraveling the real magic behind effective branding, so let's get started. If you're starting a business, you are probably super excited about designing a logo. You may be thinking, let me get a cool logo and I'm set with the branding part. And you will realize that you are not, in fact, set. Sure, logos are the face of your brand, but there's so much more to the story. Imagine your brand as an iceberg. The logo, that's just the tip peeking out of the water. But what's beneath that big chunk of ice, that's your brand identity, essence, your brand voice, your brand story, your brand values, your brand personality, and so much more. Okay, so let's break it down. Number one, your brand essence. This is your brand's heart and soul. It's what's intangible, that vibe or that spirit that resonates with your customers. For instance, think about Disney. Their essence is magic and dreams. Number two, your brand voice. If your brand could talk, and it does actually every time that you post content or create ads, if you think about it, what would your brand sound like? Is it friendly? Is it professional? Is it quirky? Your brand voice establishes a consistent personality. Third, we have your brand values. What does your brand stand for? Maybe it's sustainability or perhaps it's innovation. Your values drive your decisions and attract like-minded customers. And lastly, my personal favorite, brand personality. So picture this. If your brand were a person at a party, who would it be? The life of the party, the thoughtful listener, or perhaps the wise old soul? Your brand's personality shapes how customers relate to you. It's the human touch, the character traits that make your brand relatable. Just like people are drawn to certain personalities, customers gravitate towards brands that mirror their values, aspirations, or sometimes even their quirks. So whether you're sassy, like Wendy's on Twitter, or adventurous, like Jeep, it's this personality that forms the backbone of your customers' relationships. And trust me, in a world of endless choices, a strong brand personality can be your secret weapon to stand out. And that is just for the brand strategy part and the really unseen things. But if we look only at the visual identity of your brand is definitely not a logo. So I wanted to emphasize more on the strategic part because that's the first thing you need. So it's like, for example, for your own brand, like yourself, if you're thinking of your brand as a person, you need to know kind of who you are in order to then dress. So the way that you dress and do your makeup or whatnot, that you visually present yourself should kind of communicate your own personality. And of course, you're not like strategizing about who you are going to be today, but you're doing it subconsciously. So that's the same for your brand. Before started to even think of the visual, you're going to want to think of the strategy. And of course, you may have something that comes to you intuitively, but it's also important to put words to it, because what comes to you intuitively, then when you grow your team, you're going to have to explain to them anyways. So you need to put it into a strategy and to consciously and thoughtfully think of that, because otherwise you may miss some spots and it's going to hurt you in the future and just make you waste some time. So if we think of only the visual components, it's not just the logo. And you'll know that because you may have seen those like quizzes or things where it's a famous brand's logo, but they changed the name, or you don't have anything written, you still know what it's about. And so it's not just about the logo, because you still recognize the brand just from like a title sometimes, or like a drawing that they have, or just even the font, but it's completely changed, but you still recognize the brand. So that tells you that the logo is not everything. So in the visual aspect, if we were to break it down, we have, of course, the logo, but it's kind of the least important thing. What is also super important with branding are going to be your colors. So make sure to find your colors and define a color palette and always stay consistent with it. That's the most important. Then you also have your typography. That is so important. And then your typography can also be integrated in your logo. But it's not just, even if your logo is just a type, and sometimes we have this bias or this thought that, oh, if it's just a type, it's not a logo. Like a logo means a drawing, and it doesn't necessarily. Your logo can be a type that is just, it's usually stylized and you have something happening there. It's not just like we typed in your brand name and that's it. Like usually there's something happening. You just don't necessarily see it if you haven't designed it yourself. But then your type suite is so important. That's like your title font, your subtitle font, your CTA font, your body font for paragraphs. And you want to make sure to define that and to stay super consistent with it. And then you're also going to have, talking of CTA, so CTA is call to action. So that's going to be all of your buttons on your website, on your emails, all of that. What shape are there? Are they like rounded corners, square corners? Are they like full, you have a background to them, or it's just the border and no background? And you want to make sure that that is defined and that you keep consistent with that, same as with the rest. Then also part of your brand, you also have patterns. So you can integrate patterns into your brand. And you also need to think of photography. So what type of visuals are you going to be using? And how is the editing on the visuals? So is it like a cinematic editing? Is it black and white? Is it like a duotone type of situation? So it's not black and white, but you have something happening there. And you need to be intentional so you don't just take anything and have it come as it comes. You want to make sure that you define that beforehand. So first of all, you can save time. And so you can be as consistent as possible from the beginning. So as you can see now, probably slapping on a cool logo won't cut it. It would be like dressing up for a role, but not knowing your lines. And trust me, your audience can tell the difference. Now let's bust a little myth. Many think that branding is really for the big leagues, like the Apples and Nikes of the world. But dear listeners, whether you're a mom and pop store, an artisan selling handmade crafts, or a tech startup in Silicon Valley, branding is crucial. It sets you apart, tells your story, and more importantly, builds a bridge of trust between you and your customers. So in a sea of competition, it's your brand that can make someone say, I want to buy from them. And you know it because if you think about it really hard, or not even so hard, as a customer, you've experienced that. Like, I want to buy from them. There's not even another choice. and you're not looking around and shopping around for others. And that as a brand, as a company, is so, so valuable. Now, I'm not, of course, saying to neglect your logo. No way. It's really important, of course, but think of it as the doorway to your brand. You need to ensure that once people step through that door, they encounter a world that is consistent, engaging, and genuinely you and your brand. I do want to say, however, that from experience working with clients on branding projects specifically, I see a lot of overthinking when it comes to the logo specifically. And that can kind of hurt your brand and the outcome, the end result, because oftentimes we put so much importance on the logo specifically that we wanted to say everything there is to say about the brand, and it should not. And I think that's one of those things that we shouldn't think too hard about. Of course, we need to follow that process and do the thinking prior. That is very important. But when it comes to the logo, what we want to bring out is emotion. So you don't want to overthink it. And your logo does not need to say exactly what your company is doing. For instance, the Apple logo. They sell freaking electronics. The logo is an apple. It doesn't need to make sense, or they're not showing a phone on there. And your logo should convey all of these other things, the values, and like bring out the emotion and connect with people and be memorable. It shouldn't say exactly what you're doing, how you're doing it. And that's also because with time, your brand is going to evolve and you want to leave it that room to evolve. In future episodes, we will dive deeper into each element of branding, how to find your voice, create a compelling story, and of course, design a logo that perfectly captures your brand. But for today, here's your mini challenge. Jot down 3 words that you feel define your brand's essence. If you're not sure, ask friends or customers. And you can also do both, because sometimes you may think, oh, I want my brand to represent that, but that's not necessarily where you're at. It's just like for you as a person. Sometimes you want to be that person with those adjectives, but you're not there yet. That's like the vision. So that way you can notice if there's a gap, or maybe there's something that comes so naturally to you and to your brand that you don't even think to put it into words, but that's how others perceive you, and that is super valuable to know. I feel like this little exercise will be a small step towards understanding your branding iceberg. And also, of course, join the Dream Brand Club to access our free brand strategy guide and to be the first to know when our brand templates launch. Of course, they include not only a professional logo, but every element you need to build your brand's visual identity. Remember, dreamers, your brand is more than a visual, it's an experience, so make it a memorable one. Thank you for tuning into Market It, Build Your Dream Brand. If you've enjoyed today's episode, leave us a review or share it with a friend, and follow along on Instagram at Dream Brand Club. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep branding.